We are back in the dahlia field. Today I'm going to talk about how to cut dahlias for cut flowers. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and the right way is to be brutal, to be brave and to be brutal. So I'll show you at what stage you should cut your dahlia flower and at what depth down the stem you should cut. I've left these now for this is the second day without cutting, and so many blooms occur. We cut every day and we get just as many blooms the next day to cut, so we're a little late on this particular bed, but it'll give us some good examples of flowers that's perhaps gone a little bit past their best for cutting, and some flowers which are ready right now and some which will be ready quite soon. So first we'll look at what stage you should be cutting your dahlias. As you know, dahlias start off in a closed position as so, with the petals pointing forwards, and as time goes on the petals open out, and at first when the flower is young and it's too soon to cut, the petals will point forwards. This is in the vast majority of types of dahlia, so these petals are pointing forwards. The flower is open but not yet mature enough to cut in the standard way. The standard is to cut the flower when it's 3/4 open. As you probably know, dahlias don't continue to open very much after cutting, unlike some flowers, which for instance roses, which you can cut in bud and which will open up nicely. Dahlias will not do so. They will open a little more usually, depending on the variety, but not much. So the next stage on, the petals begin to point backwards. So this is still a fairly young flower. They all take about a day to get to this stage, really. From this stage here to this stage is just one day in this particular variety. Some varieties are much slower than that. So the petals in this flower are pointing backwards. The sepals at the back are nice and green and fresh, and we know that by looking at it, this flower is probably just about ready to be cut. It's about 3/4 developed. This flower here has gone a little bit further than that, so the petals are now pointing quite a way backwards, but the sepals are still nice and green and fresh, and that flower is nowhere near being aged. So you could take that, but it's gone ever so slightly past its best as far as optimum time for cutting is concerned. See if we can find a flower that's gone past. Probably not, because I'm cutting these every day. Like I said before, I didn't cut yesterday. We'll have a hunt around and see if I can find one that's actually gone past. So on this dahlia here, we've got flowers in different stages. This is an early flower with the petals pointing forwards. Next to it is a flower which is the petals are now pointing backwards, but still nice and fresh. And alongside here we've got just the beginnings of a flower that's gone past its best. The petals are pointing right backwards, as you can see, and they're just beginning to show their age. They're fading a little, they're beginning to get dry tips, and this flower is past its best. Next stage on after that, the sepals would be going brown, and in this case they're not quite there. They're not as vital, not as thick, and not as green as the flower in its prime. So those sepals are just beginning to show their age. Now let's look at this one. This flower is in the right stage of development, so we are going to cut. Not at the first node, which we decided last time would give us too short a stem, and then we decided whether to cut at the second node. I think the important thing here, because we're going to shorten the stem anyway after we've cut, the important thing is what do we want the plant to do after we've made the cut. It's going to start to grow from the upper nodes, such as this plant here where we've made a cut sometime, and the two shoots from the next node down will then be stimulated into growth. And if you think about it, this plant will be about so high before it gives us another bloom. We could have made a decision to go one node further down, in which case we'd have a more compact plant, and if that's what we want because of the shape of the others, where it has to fit in the environment and such, then you can be nice and brutal and go really low down here, knowing that the two axillary buds will be stimulated at that stage, and if you can see, we'll get a plant which is bushier from a lower level. But in this one, I think it's a bit of a toss-up really. We've obviously already got this good development of the two side shoots, and it would be a pity to waste that, but certainly if the plant would benefit from it, that's exactly what we'd do. We'd cut lower down. In this case, I'm going to allow these two buds to develop by cutting here. And once again, we're just going to take these two off. And there's our cut flower. Like I said before, I'm going to sacrifice these flowers actually, so I'll just go on and cut all of these four flowers, all of these four plants, 5 plants I think. I'll cut away the flowers that we don't need, leaving the remaining plants in such a shape that their future development will be ideal. See, I'm sacrificing all these buds in order to get down to the right level in this shoot. So that's exactly what I want. So you can see we've cut away all this material. It looks like we're being very destructive, but in fact what we're doing is we're making the cut in the stem at the right length so that the plant that remains is in a much better condition as far as its shape to continue performing. We don't want a plant that's very, very tall because that's unwieldy. So these are in not bad shape. These 3 will open by tomorrow or the next day, and we'll probably sacrifice those by going nice deeply into the plant there. So let's see exactly what we've got now. Here's our Moretti Bliss bloom. First bud. We are going to sacrifice that. And then we're looking at the length of the stem that we want for our particular purpose, and we're going to decide where to make the next cut. And in fact I want a little bit more stem than this, so I'm going to take off the two side shoots there, and we've now got a stem which is much longer than we'll need to use. So we will, at an angle, cut roughly where we'd like the stem length to be, and that must now go straight into clean water. So we cut, we clean, and then we immerse in clean water every time. So I'm going to continue training this plant by cutting away. It's a fairly quick job. So you can see how brutal I've been. I've left a few buds so that we can perhaps pick some flowers tomorrow or the next day. But the main intent here was to train the plants to get them lower so that they'll continue to pump out flowers on a daily basis now for getting on for a couple of months. And therefore the idea is to keep the flower fairly low, low and healthy, so that it can continue to put those blooms out for us without getting too tall and leggy. And this is what we're left with here. Like I keep saying, we're going to sacrifice these because the blooms are not performing well enough just at the moment, but I do hope and expect that the flowers that come from here on will be the correct shape and will have lost that nasty brown staining. So thanks very much indeed for watching this episode, and hope to see you again for the next one. Bye bye for now.